Well, hi everyone, and thanks for joining us. Today I'm with Ahmad Imam, who connects entrepreneurs and business leaders with the world's greatest minds. He's also a confidence and content creation specialist, ambassador for Success Resources Australia, a host, presenter, and speaker. Well, thanks, Ahmad, for your time and for accepting this interview, which may help other people who want to take their life and business to the next level or considering a career change. Well, all good there. How are you today?
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure.
Okay, fantastic. Well, we'll get right into it. Ahmad, can you please share a little bit about yourself, your background, and how you got started in content creation?
Sure. Look, I am originally from Egypt. I was actually born in Egypt. My family immigrated here when I was 4 years old. When I arrived in Australia, I couldn't speak a word of English and
Well, you
had to
speak well
somehow pick
now.
that up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing okay now. The funny thing is I've actually lost the Arabic and I've picked up the English. And now when I try and speak Arabic, it's very, very broken. But I've come from very humble beginnings. I mean, when we arrived here in Australia, we literally had to start from scratch. We even lived in a motel for the first 6 months when we arrived in Australia as we were building ourselves up. I had a pretty tough childhood in the sense that I experienced a lot of bullying and I went through a period of pain, which I call the awkward years. I looked very awkward. I was very socially awkward. I actually had there was a long period there where I had such low self-esteem and confidence that I couldn't even look people in the eyes. And so for me, taking myself out of my comfort zone and teaching myself how to be confident was actually a very, very long journey. At one point when I was about 18, I was actually working at a pizza restaurant. And my boss at the time was someone that really believed in me at that point in my time when I actually really needed it. And he gifted me a 24-disc CD set, which was Tony Robbins. It was actually Personal Power 2 by Tony Robbins. And this is Tony Robbins back in the day when he looked like an accountant, right?
Yeah.
Right. And I had not seen him before. I had not heard him before, but I listened to that very first CD and I was blown away. I was absolutely drawn in. It was my taste and my first interaction with self-improvement. And that sort of started my journey of building my confidence and everything like that. And I know that's a very roundabout way of getting to content creation, but content creation fits within that journey. Putting yourself out there on video, having the confidence and courage to put yourself out there, knowing that you can be judged and knowing that you're going to be perceived a certain way, certainly requires confidence. And that was just the next step in my journey. So initially taking myself out of my comfort zone was volunteering to MC, and it could be MCing weddings or doing speaking presentations or sales presentations. And I could be, really fearful inside, but I really made sure I built on that muscle. And content creation was the same thing. So starting my journey in content creation in 2018, I put out my first video. My first video actually took me 1 hour to record a 47-second video. And I'm not joking. And that's because I was self-conscious. I was thinking about the wrong things. I was recording the video, watching it back, not happy with it, recording again, watching it back. Yeah. And that process took an hour until after an hour, I was like, you know what? I think that's it. I think that's the best I'm going to be able to do. And so from there, I'd be putting out video after video. I built up that momentum. And it actually led me to realize that it's a skill set of mine. I've built it up so much that now I not only enjoy it, but people look up to me and are inspired by my content and ask me to teach them about how to create content. So it actually all started from my journey on LinkedIn in 2018.
Yeah, gee. Thanks for sharing that, and thanks for being open about your history. And I can relate because I experienced similar things, low self-esteem and, got a bit bullied at school. And it does happen to a lot of people, not just people, I suppose, that come from other countries. And yeah, you've actually touched on some key points there. And I hope people grasp those points about you've taken responsibility and realized that, hey, this is not who I want to be. I don't want to be stuck as this person that's afraid to look people in the eyes. And I'm so glad that you found Tony Robbins, because I'm also a student of Tony Robbins, and you've obviously applied it to perfection. And look at you today. You're very confident, charismatic, doing really well. And I can see that you've gone through those steps that Tony talks about. getting yourself in the right state, changing the story about yourself, and taking massive action. I'm all with you with what you've kind of studied. So that's fantastic. You're an inspiration to other
Thank you,
people
man.
that,
I
hey,
really
they
appreciate
can. Yeah,
I
they
really
can
appreciate
change.
that. Look, that they say that confidence is the courage to speak your truth. You know, and for a very long time, I didn't have the courage to speak my truth. Most of the time, I was actually just keeping my past in my past. I would ignore it. But nobody should be living with low self-esteem and low confidence because of the way other people have perceived you. And so, you know, I'm on a journey now, not only for myself, but for others. You know, I'm on a mission to help other people build confidence, because it breaks my heart when I see people with low self-esteem or judging themselves or not being kind to themselves. So anything that I can do in that regard, I will.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. You're definitely on the right track. And I've also seen a lot of people that are very competent, but they lack confidence, which is a bit of a
Yes.
shame.
Yes. I mean, that happens so often. You see people that are incredibly competent, just so bright and intelligent and innovators at what they do, but they just don't have the confidence to show people that. And that's why there's a lot of people that aren't as competent, but are much further ahead because that confidence has given them the opportunity to seize opportunities that have come their way.
Yeah,
So believe me, that actually happens with most people.
yeah,
Most competent and intelligent people actually do lack a bit of confidence.
yeah, exactly. And sometimes I see the opposite, where people can come across very confident, but they lack competence, which is kind
Yeah.
of like a funny.
Yeah,
I don't know if you've noticed that too.
very much. I mean, if you can find somewhere in between,
Yeah, that's
the
right.
sweet spot
Well,
in between, that's where it's at.
yeah, and you can develop both skills. You're not stuck. This is the key. We can change. We can improve. And also something that I did learn actually from Tony is that when we do a talk or, you know, go on video, if we do get a bit nervous or when we give a public speech, it's because we're thinking about ourselves. We're not thinking about others. We're actually being selfish when we're nervous.
Yes.
Yeah,
That is such a fundamental point. Like at any time you're creating content or you're speaking on stage and you start getting self-conscious, you're actually thinking about you. When
yeah,
what you should be thinking about is what message am I going to deliver?
exactly.
And who is this message going to benefit and help? And if you think about that, you know, what you look like, what you sound like becomes completely irrelevant. So
Yes.
you're absolutely spot on.
Yeah, exactly. That's great. And why did you become a content creator? Was there someone in particular or something that influenced you?
Look, I'm a big fan of YouTube. So, I mean, there's a number of people on YouTube that I've been following in terms of YouTube influencers. I've always been a creative person, and I love getting into that creative mindset. I mean, whenever people talk about their genius and what's your genius, my genius is when I'm being creative and I'm putting myself out there. I'm being expressive. I'm entertaining. I'm educating. That's very much my genius in my space. And when I'm doing that, time just passes. I don't feel like I'm doing
Mm.
any work at all. But I didn't try to be a content creator. I kind of just fell into it. You know, the very first video was something that I did to just challenge myself because I got into the habit of taking myself out of my comfort zone because I know that I grow from that. And so upon putting out my first video on LinkedIn, and you know, you and I have obviously connected from LinkedIn. It's a very forgiving platform, and it's a platform that has just a very nice community feel
Yes.
about it. People support you, people lift you up. And so when I received the response I did, it wasn't a great response because it was my first video, of course. But
Yeah.
when you receive some positive feedback, it inspires you to keep producing content and keep posting content. And I found after a short period of time, a lot of people were looking up to me for content creation, just based on the skill set that I developed, some of the creative and innovative content that I was putting out. And after about, let's say, 6 to 12 months, I found my following start to just exponentially increase to the stage where I would be receiving messages daily asking me about content creation and confidence and how do you have the courage to do this and do that. And I found that that's what people see in me. So
Yeah.
if I can help someone create content because they believe in my story and my journey and what I've accomplished, then that's brilliant. And I want to do that now on a global scale. So I just want to help as many people as I can.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, I didn't go through this process and attempt to be a content creator. It just kind of it's a path, I guess, that I was on and that I ended up being on, and now I'm doing that on a more wider scale.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. And like going back to Tony, he
Yep.
talks about everything in your life, all the good and the bad, is happening for you, not to you. And it sounds like what you've
Yes.
been through, like starting off a bit lacking confidence, that
Yep.
became a problem that you needed to solve for yourself. And now you can actually help millions of people through the use of the internet build their confidence and make this a better world. I mean, that's fantastic. If you know,
It's amazing how life works when you truly believe in yourself and you ignore all those self-limiting beliefs. Everything kind of just, a path will open up for you, and it's a path that you genuinely should be on. But you need to embrace who you are, and ignore everything else that doesn't work for that.
yes, exactly. And you touched also on comfort zone, like getting out of your comfort zone. That's where the growth is. That's where happiness is. That's where success is. And that's where you're going to find the real Ahmad. That's just how it is. And you're going to find the real Martin inside your comfort zone, which I call your danger zone or dead zone.
Yep.
That's boring. And you're not going to grow. You're not going to fulfill your
Yeah.
potential.
No growth happens inside the comfort zone. Like approaching and challenging yourself by going after the things that you fear the most, and things that are, in most cases, once you actually do them, you realize they weren't even big fears. It was just the voice inside your head that kept snowballing and making it such a big thing. All my growth has happened as a result of me challenging myself. And the amazing thing is, once you build up that muscle, the amount of things that you can do are limitless.
Yes.
It's incredible, and that's why I want to teach people to do the same thing, and show them the example that I've made. Because believe me, I'm nothing special. What you see of me now is nothing compared to what I used to be, and I've just put myself through a 10-15 year journey of growth and challenging myself and building up that confidence and courage to do the things that I would have been absolutely fearful of 10-15 years ago. So it just takes time and that momentum, and like going to the gym and building up a muscle, you're building up your confidence muscle, your courage muscle.
Yeah, exactly. And another thing you mentioned was about you love creating, which is a very
Yes.
important point because I think, even Tony talks about this, there's excitement in creation. There's no excitement in maintenance. And I think as spiritual beings, we are here to expand, express, and we have got the power to create. So it's important for everyone to think about what are you producing in this world and hopefully
Yep.
producing something that's going to outlast you, like this video or other content you produce when we're both gone, some little kid that's lacking confidence might see it and might get an idea, So it's
Absolutely.
amazing, the ramifications of actually putting yourself out there and creating something. Yes, that's fantastic. Well, thanks for that. And may I ask, what caused you to make the career change from property to success resources and content creation?
Look, I was in property for a good 6 years. It was something I was passionate about. I mean, I'm a property investor personally in my personal life, and I like talking property. I mean, property is something that I can sit down with you over a cup of coffee and talk about. But I got to the stage after about 5 or 6 years. It was actually during my content creation journey where I started to really articulate what my values were, what my purpose was, and what my mission was. And it was around this confidence piece and this courage piece, being an anti-bullying champion, helping people with their low self-esteem and low self-worth. And what I was doing in property wasn't really aligning with that at the time.
Yeah.
Success Resources. Now, for those who don't know, Success Resources is the largest events promoter in the world. And they bring out people to the stage like Gary Vaynerchuk and Richard Branson, Robert Kiyosaki, Jay Shetty, and they work very, very closely with Tony Robbins. So for me, it feels like I've actually gone full circle. I started my self-improvement journey with Tony Robbins, and now I'm in a position where I get to work with and promote events with Tony Robbins. So it's very, very much aligned with my purpose, everything that I stand for, my mission. And so I could not be happier to be aligned with Success Resources. In terms of content creation, as I mentioned, it's something that I kind of just fell into and realized that it's something that I'm good at. And other people, reach out to me for advice. And so I wanted to make it, I wanted to make it part of my offering, in that I can help people create content, but also help them build confidence throughout that process as well. So it's amazing. It's amazing how life turns out, you know.
Yeah.
And it's to think 15 years on from the beginning of my journey that I would be aligned with a company like Success Resources and get to talk to other people about Tony Robbins and self-improvement, and then help people through content creation and building confidence. It's incredible, mate.
Yeah, I'm so happy for you. And it's music to my ears when you mention those words, you know, passion and purpose and mission, because I'm all about that. I'm all about helping people find their purpose and connect with their purpose, because I believe that is the key to a happy and fulfilled life. And you're going to reach your full potential if you do tap into your purpose, because your purpose is your path, your passion is your fuel, and your personality is your vehicle. That's how I kind of link it all together. So that's fantastic. And you mentioned, with your content creation, I did hear also you did a music. I saw a clip of a music video. Was that the banjo, or were you?
No, it wasn't a banjo. I wish I could play the banjo. That would be
I
cool.
thought I saw you playing. Were you playing an instrument?
No, that was a mock belt. So I just had a belt that I was stringing, and it was just a bit of B-roll footage to create a bit of fun. But the music video, that's probably the most fun thing that I've done on LinkedIn and on my content creation journey. So I actually I'm good friends with a person in the States. His name's David Bry. He's a branding expert, and we got together after he saw one of my previous videos where I was actually rapping in a video on LinkedIn, and it caused it reached a lot of people, because you don't see too many people doing something that creative or something that out there on a professional platform like LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And he reached out to me. He said, "Look, why don't we collaborate?" He said that he can beatbox, I can rap. We can come together and put something magical together. And that's what we worked on doing. So we created the most epic video in LinkedIn history.
Wow.
Most epic music video in LinkedIn history. That's what we called it, at least. But we got 70 influencers involved, 70 people on LinkedIn that are very active, and we got them involved in the video to collaborate with us. And the video ended up going viral. It got something like 200,000 views. Ended up being featured in Inc. and Forbes. And it was just a lot of goodwill for the platform. A lot of people enjoyed it, and we had a blast making it. So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. And also, you mentioned about the property bit. I did watch a bit of a YouTube video where you did talk about the property, and I can kind of relate, because I was, more into property years ago, and talking about building the asset base, and then as you get older, flip that more into cash flow. So it makes perfect sense what you're saying. But we do move on with our lives, and we do move on to other things. But I think the key thing that stays the same is probably the values. And but the vehicle and how we actually project that into the world could change. Like it looks like now you're doing the content creation, but that's founded on your values and beliefs. Yeah,
that's a very good way of putting it. I think we all have values, but I think not all of us have articulated those values. For example, I didn't really articulate my values, as in understand what my top 5 values were and write them down. And make sure that I live by them, and that every relationship that I build and foster revolves around those values. Not everyone has gone through that process, and I recommend they do. Values can also change over time, I think. Over a long period of time, values can change. I mean, the values that I have now are different from the values I had 10 years ago.
Of course, true.
Just based on the growth that I've had. And so, absolutely, the vehicle can change. And as long as that vehicle is one that is aligned with your current and existing values that you've articulated, you're going to be on the right path.
Yeah. Well, the values give you, it's like a compass, and you're right. Values do change. For example, a 5-year-old child, would be looking forward to their birthday, but a 75-year-old might not be as
not so much
vocal about it. So you're right. And also with values, another thing is to prioritize your values. Otherwise, you end up, as you know, values in conflict. Like is your
very good point. Very good point. So I mean, I've articulated my top 5 values, and they're all to me incredibly important, but I've also then gone in and articulated my core intrinsic value. Out of those 5 values, what is my absolute core intrinsic value? So my values are kindness, optimism, growth, integrity, and respect. And after going through a bit of an exercise with my business coach, I realized that my core intrinsic value, if I was to just have one out of the 5, is kindness. And I think that revolves around a number of things, but obviously it's to do with my personal journey the things that I experienced, what I want for others. And so for me, kindness not only means being kind to others, it's also being kind to yourself. And so I live by that. I try to be kind to everyone and everything. And that's my core intrinsic value.
Yeah, that's a good one. Very important one, because we don't know what people are going through, and we might be the last person someone makes contact with, and could be the last straw that breaks the camel back. So being kind, it doesn't cost anything, but it can actually help someone grow. It's like, I guess, fertilizer. If someone's a plant, you like giving them water and fertilizing. And obviously, you know, what you put out, the universe will give back. But it might not necessarily come from that person. It might come from a different person. That's why sometimes I feel like, I mean, I used to have this thing where, you know, I did some good for someone, and I thought, well, gee, how come they're not reciprocating? But then I realized through wise people that you might not get back from the same person you gave to. It might come from some other person or some other event. So you just have to trust in the universe and the laws of the universe.
You have to trust the universe. And it might not come back to you straight away.
Yeah, that's right.
It might come back to you in 3 months. It might come back to you in 3 years.
Yeah.
But it does come back, you know, and I've experienced it personally. Yeah, it's a very good point.
Exactly. And you've heard the saying, God's delays are not God's denials?
Yes, I have. Yeah, that's a good one.
No, it's all good. Okay, so what advice would you give to someone that may be thinking of a career change or even starting a business?
Great question. And look, I've experienced a career change a number of times actually, but most recently, of course, with what I mentioned between property and success resources and content creation. There are so many people that are currently working that are just unhappy with their jobs and unhappy with their lives. And considering how much time we spend at work, doing work with our colleagues, compared to how much time we actually spend with, let's say, our loved ones and families, it baffles me as to how someone can work in a place that makes them unhappy or miserable or upset. I understand that a lot of people don't have the choice and they do it for money. Yep. I get that. But at some point, I think everyone has to have a look at what they're currently doing in life, what kind of message they want to share, what is their story, and why did they experience the things that they experience, and how can they help others through something similar. I truly believe that, look, everybody has gone through some level of pain, big or small. And I truly believe that that pain is really just a billboard. It's the universe putting up a billboard saying, you know what, that's kind of the path that you should be on. You understand that. You understand what it feels like to be like this. And you can help other people through that.
Exactly.
But my message is this: understand your values, understand your message, understand exactly what your purpose is and what you're trying to accomplish out of this world. What is your genius? What is something that you do that when you're doing it doesn't even feel like work? Because that's the universe giving you hints as to what you should be doing and fulfilling. Make sure you chase that, you know, and initially it might be difficult from a monetary perspective, financially. But I mean, it's all about happiness at the end of the day. You know, every successful person that you come across will tell you that it's not about money. You know, we all think that once we get to a certain point, as in we say, oh, look, once my business is successful, I'm going to be so happy. Once I create $1 million business, God, I think things are just going to change. It doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
You know, the only thing that changes is maybe your lifestyle, but your happiness doesn't change, because your happiness actually comes from inside. It doesn't come from your external surroundings. And so make sure you're giving that some thought, and some serious thought, because life is short. Nobody should be miserable. Nobody should be in a position where they've got low self-esteem as a result of their jobs, or they're not feeling satisfied. Make sure you understand exactly what you can do, you know, the problems that you can solve, what people actually reach out to you for. You know, do you find that people ask you advice on a certain topic because you're a bit of an expert on that topic? Whatever it is, just make sure you're doing something that actually fulfills and aligns with your values and your message. That's my main piece of advice there.
Yeah, that's fantastic advice. Very wise advice too. And for people that are, you know, in a job that they hate and they feel like they can't get out because they need the money to pay the bills, I mean, really they can start doing a few hours after work on their passion. And Gary Vee talks about that. Like, what are you doing between 6 p.m. and midnight? There's 6 hours there, and then you got the weekend. So, and you can also listen
Absolutely.
to, podcasts and things using net time that, when you're commuting. So there's no real excuse not working on your passion project. In fact, it's healthy to find your passion and work on it and build from that, because you're going to feel good. When you feel good, you're going to look after your health, then that flows onto your relationships, and eventually you will make some money from that venture, I believe. And I believe it's important to happily earn an income, not like what you're saying is a lot of people make the mistake of, I'll make the money first, then I'll be happy. Well, that's the wrong way around. Be happy first, doing what you love, and the money will come. If someone else is making money doing that thing that you love doing, then it's possible for you too. You just need to, how do you say, model what they're doing or get in contact with them and ask them. I'm sure people are open enough to say, hey, I suggest you do A, B, and C. So we're not trees. We're not stuck.
One of
We
my
can change our life. Sorry.
Yeah, 100%. Two things there that you mentioned. One, you can absolutely create a side hustle while you're doing your 9 to 5 or while you're doing your full-time job. And you don't have to quit one and just, transition straight into the other one. Obviously, that wouldn't be wise. We've all got, families in our lives to support. We need to pay rent. We need to pay the bills, whatever it might be. So you can slowly transition into that side hustle. And when you find that it's sufficient enough for you to then make that full transition, make that full transition.
Yeah.
The other thing is, you're spot on about happiness. My mentor used to say that wealth is actually true wealth is actually what's left over when you take money and riches away. And when you think about that, you can have true wealth right now.
Exactly.
Because it actually comes from inside. It comes from the people around you, your family, your loved ones, your friendships. All of those things are what's most important. And so when you think about that, everything else kind of fades away. All those other fears that we have, and reasons that we procrastinate, they kind of fade away. And I remember listening to Tom Bilyeu from Impact Theory.
Yeah, I've listened
And
to
Tom Bilyeu actually said something amazing. It's still stuck with me. And that is, happiness will actually come when you earn credibility with yourself. And what that means is, if you tell yourself that you're going to do something, make sure you do it.
Yeah.
Because if you do, you're going to be happy. So for example, if you tell yourself that tomorrow I'm going to start at the gym, and then tomorrow comes and you don't go to the gym,
Yeah.
you feel bad because you've let yourself down.
That's
You
right.
haven't
Can't
earned
trust
that
yourself.
credibility
Yeah.
with yourself. Yeah, absolutely. But when you do the opposite, when you commit to doing something, when you tell yourself, tomorrow I'm going to go to the gym, and then tomorrow you actually go to the gym, you feel amazing, and that effect snowballs and it grows. And if you're doing that with each area of your life, and I say that because we're talking about, perhaps making a career transition. Anyone that's miserable in their jobs knows that they're miserable in their jobs. It's not like they don't know. They
Yeah.
know that they're miserable in a job. They probably know that they should make some sort of career change and shift, but they're procrastinating. And so if you make a commitment to yourself that in 6 months' time or over the next 6 months, I'm going to try and make a career change into an area that is probably more suited to me, then do that. Earn that credibility with yourself, because happiness will come.
Yeah. No, good points there. And yeah, I guess if someone is procrastinating, there must be a reason. It's probably fear, but there's also people out there. You can hire a coach that can help you and hold you accountable. But you're right. You got to set yourself a little goal, little step, and stick to it. And that builds trust. You trust yourself that you can maybe next time set a bigger goal, and then you keep that momentum going. But it is important to do something about your situation if you're not happy, because like I said, it's all connected. If you're not happy in your work, you're probably going to go home and you're going to want to change your state. You're going to want to numb the pain. So you start drinking, you start, probably doing drugs. You're probably watching the news and feeding yourself with more negativity. So your health's going to go downhill. Also, your relationships are going to go downhill, because when you don't feel good about yourself, you're more likely to be irritated, much easier, and your relationships, and then also your income earning capacity. So it's all interconnected, I believe. That's why I strongly push people, find your passion and your purpose and follow that path. It's not going to, obviously, you're not going to build something overnight, but you just keep chipping away at it. And before you know it, in a few years down the road, you can transform your life, just like you've actually done it yourself. You've found that there's a bit of an issue, and you've made a decision to, and you got some help and support, encouragement, and you've proven that it does work. You can change.
It's very slow incremental growth, almost to the point sometimes where you feel like you're not growing. But when you look back over the course of the past 6 months or the past year, you see how much you've accomplished. It's just something that you shouldn't be, comparing to every single day as a benchmark. So you're absolutely right. It takes time to grow. It takes time to understand exactly what you should be doing, and it takes time to make sure that you're aligned with your purpose or your mission. Some people don't understand what that is until they're in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and that's completely okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, the more you give it some thought and the more you're thinking about making that shift and then giving yourself that credibility by actually doing what you commit to, the quicker you're going to be aligned with that process and that mission.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes things happen in our lives. Like a lady I was talking to the other day, Tina Ridge, she was in a car accident, and that what got her onto the path of her purpose, which is to help people that are going through grief and loss. So yeah, sometimes an event happens to wake us up, or the universe gave us that traumatic event. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
Another example that I can think of is over 30 years ago when I was going to university and I wasn't doing too well. I was struggling. I was going out 6 nights a week, which wasn't good. And then my father died, and that woke me up, and I changed basically overnight and started studying and ended up graduating and becoming an engineer. But sometimes things happen in our lives and that's the catalyst. But other times we just build on it slowly. But it's good because, end of the day, the time's going to pass anyway. And if you're improving slowly, you're progressing, and progress, as you know, is happiness, and it's all good stuff. So thanks for sharing those points.
No, my pleasure. And you don't have to do much. I mean, literally just a small change each day. I was speaking to Michael Lane from Success Resources, and he said what he does is he simply tries to improve by about 2% each day. He just tries to be 2% better than the previous day. And can you imagine how much that will compound over time?
Exactly. It's like capital gains or compound interest. Yeah.
Exact same thing.
Exactly the same thing. Yeah, no, that's fantastic.
So you don't have to make a huge shift from one day to the next. It's a small, tiny, gradual shift, and then you make small incremental growth. But believe me, it compounds.
Yeah, exactly. No, spot on. Okay, so how can people learn more about you or your work or get in contact with you, Ahmad?
Look, reach out to me on LinkedIn. Please connect with me. I put out a lot of content. I put out daily content, everything from success, mindset, the things that I've personally learned. I interview a lot of people that I feel are incredible minds, and I try and add as much value as I can to the community. But I'd love to hear from you. Send me a message on LinkedIn. I've recently set up TikTok.
Okay,
I've had my stepdaughter get me into TikTok, so that's something I'm going to try and take on. It's going to be my new adventure in the social media world, and so wish me luck. But please reach out, and I'd love to connect with you.
No worries. I'll put the contact details in the post so people can just click and connect. So that's fantastic. And do you have any final words?
Do I have any final words? Look, I end every single video with be kind to yourself. And the reason I do is because I know what it feels like when you're not kind to yourself. And so given this is Mental Health Awareness Week, I think it's apt to just reinforce that message and say that make sure you're being kind to yourself. It's nothing more important than that. Life is tough as it is. And if you're being kind to yourself, believe me, you can make the process so much easier.
Yes. Yeah, no, that's a great message. And I find also when you treat yourself well, you tend to treat other people well. When you don't treat yourself well, you probably don't treat other people well. So yeah, it's an interesting concept. That's fantastic. Well, thanks, Ahmad, for sharing your story. It's very inspiring. So if anyone's listening and wants to take their life or business to the next level, then reach out to Ahmad. I'll put his contact details in the comments or in the post somewhere. Thanks again for your time and for your wisdom. Really appreciate it. I'm sure viewers will get a lot of value out of this interview. And that's a wrap. So thanks again, everyone, for listening, and have a great day.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it, mate. Bye-bye.